Hi, and welcome to another video for Aperture Speaks. And today we have quite an interesting topic we're going to be looking at, and that is professional photography. Is it dead? Well, let's sort of just start from the beginning and say that this is an interesting topic. I think for quite a while, especially with the digital revolution and the even more democratization of photography, that the boundary between a professional photographer and an amateur photographer has obviously it's become closer. The gap is not so wide, and it's generally because photography has become, in some ways, a little bit cheaper and a little bit easier to get into in a way. Now with digital photography, you can go out and you can buy a pretty decent digital camera, especially when you're looking at the lower level Rebel, Canon Rebels, or the Canon like 550, even the Canon 1000D. You know, they're pretty good entry-level cameras, and then at very sort of affordable-ish prices that have a lot of flexibility for somebody who wants to just start out, or somebody who just really wants to get interested into photography. There's a lot of digital editing suites which are not Photoshop and are very, comparable in price. Photo Plus is quite cheap. You can even use Piskia or Picasa. Again, people sort of recommend as well. So I think really, photography has become easier for people to get into. I know when I started photography, you really needed a darkroom to make your prints. And it was really black and white was mainly the amateurish field. Color photography was, in my opinion, not so much for the amateur at the time. And it was because of the processes you have to get, the technology to actually create the images. So why has this all sort of come about? Well, it was actually to do with a comment made last week by the Yahoo CEO, Marissa Mayer. And she was at a Yahoo event, and she basically said that there's no such thing as Flickr Pro, because she was talking about Flickr Pro and the revamp to Flickr. And she said, but because today, with cameras as pervasive as they are, there is no such thing as professional photographers. When everything is professional photographers. Certainly there is varying levels of skill, but we don't want to have Flickr Pro anymore. We wanted everyone to have professional quality photos, space, and sharing. Now, of course, this sort of set off this whole sort of thing, like, is she saying that professional photography is dead? And she did come back and say that, no, it was a misstatement on my part and out of context. This was about a terabyte on Flickr and how many photos people can take. So really what she was saying in this sort of quote which has been made is that there's no Flickr Pro because everyone should have the ability to have the professional level in Flickr, which is the large storage space, the bigger photos, and things like this. But I think the reason why people got quite upset, and the reason I think it's not quite it's a little bit of a misstatement, but not as much as I think she wanted to be, is that when she says, today with cameras as pervasive as they are, there's no such thing really as professional photographers. So what she's saying is, because there are so many people with cameras, there is no professional photographer. And this is where people sort of got a little bit angry, because there is such a thing as professional photographers. And really that goes down to the linguistics of the word professional. Professional meaning somebody who works in a field and gets paid for this work. And they produce high quality, they usually have formal training, they have a code of ethics they work by. And actually with professional photography, it's a lot more than just the photography. You have to keep in mind that the professional photographers are working on, they have to keep their blogs going, they have to keep their website going, they have to have interaction, they have to share their work, they have to look for work. Work doesn't always come for them. Sometimes they have to bid for a commission. Sometimes they work within very sort of strict confines. Even sometimes they don't have this sort of freedom to do whatever they want because they have to get paid. And in the end, it's the customer buying or purchasing the work, which is what is the important bit here. And so that's why I think she's got herself in a little bit of a problem. I would say there's nothing wrong with not being a professional photographer. When I went to study, I wanted to be a professional photographer. It was my dream, my goal in the end, you know, to become a professional. And as it's turned out, I'm not a professional. I'm an amateur photographer in a way. I'm an amateur photographer with formal training. I do work, I sell work, but I don't really get commissioned for anything. It's mainly me doing my own thing and people liking it and people not liking it, which I don't mind because I have other work which I get paid for, which is also fulfilling as well. And I think there's all these different levels now of photographers. You have the enthusiasts, people who really, really are into photography. You have the amateurs whose work can be can be better than professional photographers at times. And this is because the amateurs can work outside of the box. They can approach something in a different way because they are not getting paid. So if it screws up, it doesn't really matter for them so much. Whereas the professional, they have strict, rigid sort of ways they do things, because if they mess it up, well, they're not going to get the money, really, are they? So that's sort of the really sort of big difference between the professional and the amateur. But let's not forget that amateurs can change the field drastically. There have been amateur biologists, and like Charles Darwin, he was an amateur, and he revolutionized biological science with the theory of evolution. And it is people like this who can change things because they don't look at things in such a rigid, strict way. And I think that's something really to be praised as well with the amateurs, that amateurs can go out and they can create images and they can devote time to certain things because they are not stuck that they have to create money out of something. And that can then have a knock-on effect that can basically change photography in some way, which I think is also good. Obviously, when people talk about the Instagram side of photography, we just sort of build up the whole everything being shared so much and things like this. And I think Instagram is good because it's gotten more people interested in photography, and hopefully it will build people to go and get better cameras and create better images. And I think this is really a time in photography where we are seeing like the second revolution of people going out and taking pictures. We are like with mobile photography, for me, is a bit like the box brownie. This thing that people could go out there and take pictures, whenever they want. Although with the box brownie, you could only take about 8 or 9, maybe 10 pictures. I'm not too sure. But then with a cell phone camera, you can go out and take pictures wherever you want. And it's become this sort of thing that the world is being documented so much more, and people have so many images that they are taking. And that's why maybe the terabyte on Flickr was such a good selling point, because this is what people want. People are sort of taking so many pictures. There are some Instagrammers who take like 20, 25 pictures a day. I'm not saying they're all good, but imagine all those being uploaded. It's gonna take quite some time to fill up a terabyte. But that whole document of images will be really, really interesting for photography, and then you'll get somebody out there who'll do something really, really incredible at the same time. And it just makes it more accessible, which I think is great, because I think photography is a really good fun, and I think the more people who do photography, it sort of elevates photography as well to be not just, the duck face pictures you see on Facebook, but something more. So I think maybe professional photography isn't dead, but there is a smaller gap between the amateur and the professional, and which I think is good, because then it pushes the professional to be even better. So that's my 2 cents on this. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, you can catch me on my blog, which is aperture64.wordpress.com. You can catch me on Flickr, which is I am on Flickr actually, which is on Aperture64. I also have a Twitter account, which is @Aperture64, and a Facebook page, facebook.com/Aperture64. So until next week, I hope you have a great week taking some pictures, and I hope to catch you then. Bye bye.